through all
Oh my glorious
we're
God.
picking through the reports, and we are creating a narrative to found the conclusions to which we have arrived. Namely, of course, we are at war, and to structure the words of encouragement and advice that we want to share. So, Percival is looking at, I mean, there are just so many things.
NHT bundle.
This situation with NHT. So they're the familiar themes, and we don't want to keep kind of pounding them. But we see the absence of relationship, the absence of trust, the the use of misinformation and disinformation to lead us away from
What the real issues are.
what the real issues are, and the way in which we should be thinking about these things. And we recognize the hand of the enemy. There's always an enemy, but you cannot make yourself the enemy, which is what has been happening. And we've got to kind of demystify some of the issues and clear them up. So we understand that this country, 95% of us look like we come from the same tribe, and the 95% of us are standing at the bottom of the ladder, boosting other people up. We're looking like right now things are going to burst. In fact, things have been bursting at the seams for a very long time, but for one reason or another, the tension real advancement that has caused the entire country to be held back. Like it or not, those who are sitting pretty and
Leadership.
feeling comfortable, you just need to rise above yourself and look down and see that you are not as comfortable or as well placed as you might think. And events on the global stage gonna prove it very shortly, because if Jamaica as an island don't prosper together, we are all gonna go down together. So we take a book out of the enlightened self-interest philosophy and say, if you want to,
For Wayne Robinson to be appointed as principal. And this is what the Gleaner says, that they reject our institution. Interesting.
well, interesting and not interesting. What is more of the real point behind that story is the manipulation of information
Information.
that you see.
Mhm.
The and look at it now. We've watched all the horrors with Royal Reed,
Mhm.
and we have known that there has been a very and a credible, competent vice principal who was handling things even before the issues with Mr. Reed arose, because Mr. Reed was on secondment,
Yeah.
and Mr. Robinson was manning the ship. Come time for him to be confirmed now in the position, because Mr. Reed has resigned.
Mhm.
The ministry, who never before expressed any problem with him,
Yes.
sends out a memo that says he's not qualified because he lacks a technical requirement. Whatever that requirement is, it did not prevent him from serving
As principal.
and being exposed to our children. And then it makes you wonder, if someone is not qualified, why would you principal? And then comes the manipulation of the information.
You have to be careful, you know.
The ministry, the Gleaner reports cite the date of the memorandum which makes that complaint. The minister says she's not aware of any such issue coming to the ministry. That is how it ends.
Yeah.
The school is the board is insistent that this issue concerning his qualification had been dealt with from the time he was
Yeah.
acting.
Yes.
They made sure it is a technical requirement. They made sure. The issue, as Pastor says, a public institution, namely a government school. He had owned and successfully managed his own private educational institution for years.
Many years too. And it has
To defend themselves, the ministry says, well, there is a provision for a waiver of that requirement,
So whenever
and
we-
they simply need to request a waiver of that requirement. So all of a sudden, we have a Ministry of Education that is very knowledgeable and punctilious on matters of
What
a
that
minor
means?
nature.
Stop. What is that?
Them on point,
What the word you fun?
punctilious. I was just mad. When I'm mad, strange words come to mind. But they're on point with this little weird technicality that never seemed to matter whether he was a danger to the children or not, doesn't seem to have entered into the foray. This level of care and diligence would have assisted us with the Royal Reed situation, would have assisted us with the nutrition company situation, would have assisted us with any number of the wrongdoings that got past the ministry. But they are so diligent and careful in relation to one man who has been serving at Jamaica College and serving well.
Serving
This
well.
is the problem that we really need to tackle. The way in which we seem to come out fighting with all guns blazing on small points that display malice more than care.
That's what
And
it
this
is.
is where
Motivation,
our government,
knowledge,
yeah, that's where our government reach.
motivation is.
And you see it all over the place, all over the place. Every time you try to get some business done, and it look as if you are gonna you're gonna overcome or you're gonna rise above, somebody, some individual in government begins to get very knowledgeable and diligent in order to create what we've spent more time on it. I know that Mr. Robinson will overcome that issue.
We shall overcome.
I know he will.
Yeah, but it's kind of
Yeah.
unfortunate. But the other thing, even as we're in education, 27,000 students are still missing from the educational system in
Well,
terms of.
you know
And I
that
say it,
that
because
word they're not missing.
re-engaged.
They have completely disengaged from a system that has not served them well.
That's what it is. They've just said.
Completely disengaged. And then now, what's the government's response? I see
Well,
somebody- legal action against the parents. I saw a comment from Canute Thompson that say, even if they take legal action against one, it would be ridiculous. They're gonna take legal action against 27,000, maybe the parents of 27,000 children. That is just like when the Minister of Health said he's gonna take legal action against the delinquent persons who are not supporting their elders who they leave in government care at the hospital. Bad idea. It is a bad idea all around. But they have $103 million of unspent money sitting somewhere, they say. Millions, you see what it said? Millions unspent in yard to yard search. It's a slush bucket, whatever you call when you have money to give, pun intended. So, what is the right response, Pastor Percival? What is the plantation system, the colonial rulers? It was very easy for us to stand in the cane fields and look up at the big. You know, there's a law that prevents black people from walking around with kerosene oil after 6 o'clock.
Vagrancy one? That one?
Part of the vagrancy laws, but specifically kerosene oil. And do you know that when you look at the regulations, it is still in the regulations? Like you're not. And I stumbled on it and I said, oh my God, when I was a child, I heard about it. Just the way, I mean, we know for public safety, you can't have like certain weapons, certain tools. You can't transport them on public transportation, whatever. There are some things which a black man with kerosene oil after 6 o'clock is not going to roast breadfruit or cook his dinner.
Why
It is
not?
generally perceived that
That
he's
he's gonna
going
burn
to
down some people.
light a fire in a cane field or something that would disturb the capital base of somebody else. So there are some laws that we still have on the books that speaks to our own oppression, and we know where they come from. Separate issue. I'm not going to be distracted by that this morning.
Are you crazy?
Yeah, I know. Right now, I want to just reorganize our thinking a bit because we're having difficulties spotting the enemy. So, Pastor, I'm going to ask you to join me in
Spotting
a little
the enemy.
exercise. We've got to spot the pet that they would hide in the picture, and you have to find him. We have got to learn how to spot the enemy. Who is the enemy? Your war strategy is very dependent on recognizing the enemy. How you treat with it is dependent on what it is. In any discipline, we know that's like the first rule of diagnostic inquiry. You got to know what it is. We're having difficulty spotting the enemy, and as a consequence, we're killing our neighbors, we're shooting at each other, we're beating our children. I went through a list of atrocities that we are committing in our end. And the decision we took is that as we come into agreement that these areas
Focus
need
points.
attention,
Yeah.
we started with domestic violence, violence in the home against our children and against our partners. The people who trust us the most have become the punching bags and the
People we
victims of
trust the
abuse.
most. Yeah. The people we
Yeah.
trust the most.
Well, the people who trust us the most.
Mhm.
Who trust you more than your kids and your spouse?
Oh, see me. I was thinking that.
Yes.
Yes.
So they trust us and we turn on them. You know what that feels like? That kind of betrayal taking place right there in the home. What's gonna happen to you when you go out? Who will you trust when you go out?
That is why I was alluding to the whole thing of our children being so fearful and believing that they have to protect
They
themselves
have to protect themselves.
because they can't trust anybody.
They cannot.
Because
Oh
what
my
has happened
goodness.
with COVID and lockdown is that it has
It's revealed the weakness in
their
your own
own.
home situation.
Right.
So now you're sometimes, and we see it, we see children being put out there to work. We see one cousin moving from the country to live with a rich uncle in Kingston,
And him abuse
and
her.
he's being subjected to abuse. We see, I mean, we are opening so many doors for abuse. Poor education or lack of education. I cannot blame one of those 27,000 students who never show up for school. I can't blame them. The fault lies with us, who are the elders, who are the ones planning and preparing, who are the ones who don't our children in schools, for the most part, is unacceptable. And they don't want it. When the children themselves reject it, they don't even want to be in school for the companionship of their
You mean the
their
27,000?
peers, the 27,000.
Yeah, because yesterday I was talking to a little boy and I said, "Why are you glad?" I said, "Yes, yes, I'm glad to go back to school." They were overjoyed.
Oh, yes,
Yes, because
some children get it,
Mhm.
and it just being there because you have the company of others will make up for some of the other shortcomings.
that are
But you
present to
have
this.
27,000 and I think it's more than that. But if the number is to be believed, you have 27,000 who say, "Oh, me no want that."
But some of them, that 27,000 are not there for varying reasons. But one of the things which I'm not in agreement with you about is that we have to create an interest, a passion in them to love the
Of
city.
course,
Yes,
listen, man, your shoes tight. You know, no shoes. You
they're
barely
going to
have
school
book.
still.
Just to be in things. What say somebody else with two or three kids? Me only have one.
Yeah,
Two or
but
three children trying to make all the ends meet.
you know,
And then you must give supervision and find out from them what kind of conversation them having, who are their friend, where them are go play. You see that mother who's 2 year old, she said leave to go to the neighbor and disappear. How many times have we been in that situation when we don't know exactly where the picnic day? Because
of
we
the other
too
stresses.
because of the other stresses, so we cannot give the proper supervision.
When COVID started and a lot of schools had to go online, we had a program at a school that I was affiliated with where I just at a group of parent volunteers and we just start call. And some of the things that came out of us calling, we were able to help, like with care packages and
Yes,
so on.
yes.
But one of the things they were saying, why, Mr. President, say it's a decision I have to make, You either data or food.
Yeah.
Just simple
Yeah.
data or
Yes.
food.
And the data wasn't cheap.
Right.
I remember we had internet. Some cable fell in my neighborhood, and my son needed backup and called frantic. And I ran to Digicel to try and get something. So I walked in and said, "What is the package you have for children who are studying online?" Me no said they not have none still. But I just said, let me ask it loudly because they should have. You could never have something like that happening in the country. And you not take
It
out
was after
something.
public outcry that they
Yeah.
finally divide something.
You never take up something and dress it need to do something. But you see, they mashed on carousel and butter it and throw it out the window. So it was only right that I should be the one to go in and say, please tell me the package that you have for children. They didn't have anything. And they still don't really. But who can force it? The government is going around trying to open up hotspots in people's community.
Don't make
Like
no
you
sense.
go and make your picnic sit down outside a road in the night trying to do homework or to do research.
The hotspot.
within a hotspot. And by the way, those hotspots are really control centers, because the minute you go on that network, everybody who want to know what site you went to, what you bought or didn't buy, what you look at, how long you stay, who you talk to, it is all available, because you would have
The publicness.
voluntarily gone into a free Wi-Fi hotspot where you can control who has access to your information. But that is our digital literacy consideration. On the issue of children, we were discussing poor nutrition.